Okay, so blacksmithing. Blacksmithing, I reckon, is going to be pretty straightforward to level. It's only got 100 skill points. It's mostly gear. Shouldn't be too taxing. We got ourselves a whole bunch of materials to play with and practice with. We'll be able to work out exactly how many materials we've used by how many we have left at the end. But I'm going to try and live by a couple of simple rules when leveling. I'm going to try and level up blacksmithing using the cheapest amount of materials I feel possible. Obviously, cost of materials is a bit subjective right now as we're still in beta. Once things go live, your realms may vary slightly, but it's all relative. So let's see. We start off with a bunch of sharpening stones. Now these arguably can be created virtually nothing using just porous stones. So we're probably good to get these up to level 5, maybe level 10. See when these start going green or going even greying out. Pushing these until they grey out is probably not a bad idea. Ceremonious Smasher and Waistguard. This is our entry level leveling gear. This is starting to use the Leystrike ores, so we'll continue with these sharpening stones for now. That'll hopefully get us to level 10, and then we'll see where we stand. Skill 8, skill 9, skill 10. Now they've gone yellow. Yellow is still good though. I mean, the porous stone is going to be so easily obtainable and so cheap that I think we still need to plow through with these before we start looking at making gear. Weapons are going to be expensive, but weapons might sell quite quickly. It's up to you whether you want to craft up some of these. You are obviously getting multiple skill points, but you're starting to use a reasonable number of ore to do so. I think from a cost perspective, continuing with these sharpening stones is wise. Let's see if we can get to 15 with the sharpening stones. I think we can push these until they go green. That's a sensible place to stop. Once things go green, you really do start limiting yourself on the amount of skill points you get. But if it ends up being a case that porous stone is like gold a piece, then it's highly worthwhile pushing this as far as it will go. It's gone green at 15. Now we might start looking at creating some actual useful stuff. We have access to the skeleton keys. These are going to be super cheap. In terms of skill points, these are probably going to be the best. We only get a single skill point per one. But it only uses 2 ore. So it's 2 pieces of ore per skill point. 5 pieces of ore per skill point. 3 pieces of ore per skill point. The spears are not bad actually. Obviously you need some vendor materials with them as well. You can always then vendor the spears if nothing else. 4 pieces of ore per skill point. 3. So actually some of the weapons might not be too bad to do right now if you want to vendor them or sell them. If we are literally going at straight up cheapest, then crafting a few of these at least is sensible to get us to 20. It's always handy to have some skeleton keys knocking about anyway. So we've got ourselves the mace. Mace is the equivalent of 4 pieces of ore per skill point. Shield, breastplate, 15 for 3, so that's 5 per. This is 4 per. I think we're going to still craft up a few skeleton keys, you know. If we can get to 25 on skeleton keys. If you want to make the weapons or the shields, they're slightly more expensive. But of course you can vendor them or sell them. Probably for more than what you'll get for the skeleton keys. So that you might get some better return that way. But I mean, these are still really easy skill points and they're still super cheap. I feel slightly strange not continuing to craft these. I mean, if we can get to 30, I'll be happy. $27, $28. Ah, so it's interesting. It went yellow at 28, green at 29. Maybe we should push these to 30 then. We'll get to 30 and it'll go grey. And that would then be what I would... There we go. They've greyed out at 30. That feels kind of quite balanced, actually. It surprised me how balanced that feels. Now we've got a lot of options for skill points. We've got some items giving 2, some giving 3. Weapons are going to be considerably easier to sell, I would imagine. 3 pieces of ore per level. I mean, we've absolutely got to craft one of these, or a few of these. I think you can pick and choose any of the ones that use 9 pieces of ore, but give you 3 skill points is what you want to look at. And you can mix and match some of the gear in if you wish, but it is actually the weapons that are more cost effective. They're going to have a higher vendor price even if you vendor them. So we'll make a claymore to start with, a reaper just to mix things up a little bit. We get a blade. It was a good thing we made the reaper actually, because that went yellow once we hit 36. Maybe we want to look at the spear now, for example. Just keep crafting these cheap ones that only use 3 pieces of ore per skill point. We can get one more out of this. We get the novice crafter's mark in a second as well. Let's have a quick look at that, see if that's valuable. Now, at first glance, only using 5 pieces of ore makes it look quite valuable. But the fact that you only get 1 skill point guaranteed from them. Crafting the pauldrons, actually, only 8 pieces of ore and 1 flux for 3 skill points. I'm not sure exactly when we got access to these, but these are actually really good. These are the most efficient as it stands right now. 45, we get the next crafter's mark. Still only 1 skill point, 5. Pauldrons are still easily the winner in this situation. 3 skill points for 8 ore. 3 skill points for 9 ore. 2 skill points for only 5 ore. 2.5 ore per. Blade is the most efficient. Blade is the most efficient. We'll make one of those and then continue with the pauldrons. That will put us at around 50. So once we hit 50, we get these extra sharpening stones. We get Shadowghast ingots. We're going to make a bunch of those. And now we start getting the level 60 gear. Is it just the standard UI or an add-on that shows the skill points per craft? Just the default add-on. Default UI, no add-ons being used at the moment. Now, we are going to use a whole bunch of these Shadowghast ingots. Now, whereas they do at the moment only give us 1 skill point each, we are going to use these in large quantities. So it makes sense to craft these now, even over gear that appears to be more efficient. Because we're going to need these Shadowghast ingots. If you look at the level 60 gear, they all start to use it. So we're absolutely going to want a whole bunch of these. And arguably we should get skill points up for them while we can. So let's go with 5 to start with. Because these might go yellow, they might go green quite quickly. 53, 54, 55. One thing to note is you do get 2 per craft, which is nice. Weight stones and shadow steel sabatons. Just quickly check the weight stones. These weight stones are also very cheap and effective to make. Needing literally only some of these shaded stones. Now, it's difficult for me to guess the value of these shaded stones going forward, but I know the fact that we're going to need a lot of Shadowghast ingots anyway. It's kind of your choice. If you just want to level cheaply, you should probably plow forward with these sharpening stones, because I reckon this shaded stone is not, even though it's the rare version, I don't think this is going to be too much on the auction house. But if you plan to use blacksmithing for any decent time going forward, just keep crafting Shadowghast ingots until they presumably we might take these all the way to green, maybe even to grey, depending on how far it takes us. The only new bits of gear we're going to be picking up going forward is the level 60 gear. Once you get to 100, you get to go and get the base legendary items. So actually we've hit 60 and the sharpening stones have gone yellow already. Really emphasising my decision to continue crafting Shadowghast ingots actually. Let's do these in stages of 5. Because I know we're going to need them. We've only got 22 so far. There'll be a point where this will go yellow and then it will go green quite quickly, I reckon. And it's at that point we'll start making these level 60 bits of gear. But each time they require like 6 of these ingots. Let's keep going with these. I reckon 70, 75 would be a good place to stop with these. Uh, 70, they're still yellow. This is good. Let's keep going. Let's see if we can get to 75. We need to get 80 before we get a new piece of gear to craft. So maybe if we can get to 80 with these, we'll be quids in. Oh, it looks like we're going to have to get to 80 with these, as all of the gear that we have access to is not going to guarantee us skill points any further. These are still guaranteeing skill points, so just keep crafting because you're going to need them. And even if you don't need them, sell them on the auction house. You hit 80, we get the breastplate. This is the point where we might start thinking about making the breastplates for 3 skill points. We will gain 6 Shadowghast ingots for 3 points, but use 4, 8, 12 pieces of ore. 18 ingots per. We've only got 60, so we've only got the ability to craft like 3 of these in the first place. So I think we just need to keep ploughing forward with these ingots, you know. Is it going to be a weird situation that we're going to be able to level to like 90 to 100 just off making these ingots? If that's the case, it's crazy. 85. Let's go for 90. This might be considerably easier to level than I first thought. Because let me tell you right now, there is no way you will not sell these Shadowghast ingots. We've hit 90 and we can still make them. We've got no reason to make any gear so far. Let's go for another 5. Are we going to get this to 100? Do we think this is going to get to 100? Wow, we're going to get to 100 just off ingot. Well, there we go. That is the easiest leveling guide for a profession, I think, so far. That's ridiculous. 99, 100, boom, there we go. We've not had to craft more than a few pieces of leveling gear. We've ended up with 100 Shadowghast ingots, which we can then either look at selling on the auction house if you don't really want to be a blacksmith, but arguably, why would you have done this if you don't want to be a blacksmith? But the big thing is those 100 Shadowghast ingots that we created by leveling will give us our first 4 legendary base level legendaries, as they take 25 each. So, I think they take 25 each. Maybe. But that was pretty cheap. That was pretty effective. We used very little ore at all. We used roughly 50... Or it should be, we used exactly 50 of each of the zone-specific ores and a handful of lacerite ore, but really not much at all. And we got blacksmithing to 100. Awesome stuff. So then, guys, I hope that was helpful for you. If you're new around here, subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.